Greetings, I am Bishop Jaime Soto and here to speak to you about a very pressing matter that is being raised in the California legislature. It's about SB 360. SB 360 is a very misguided bill attempting to have the state of California intrude in what is Catholic sacramental practice around the sacrament of confession. And they are requiring priests to break the seal of confession in certain circumstances, and all in an attempt to try to prevent child abuse. But while the intention is good, the legislation itself fails to understand the dynamic and the reasons for the seal of confession and the power of the sacrament of penance, and that as much as the onus of this bill is on the priest confessor, that the ones who will suffer most as a consequence of this intrusion of the state into the sacrament of confession is really the penitent. And so it's I'm going to urge you to understand the gravity of what the state of California is attempting to do, and to urge your assembly members to vote no on this. To help us understand a little bit about this, I've invited a co-worker and good friend, Cecilia Flores, here to talk a little bit about her perspective on SB 360.
So for me, the sacrament of confession was so fundamental in my own faith journey and finding my way back to the Lord. I remember being a young person, very misguided, made a lot of bad decisions, and going back to confession for the first time in a very long time. To be able to encounter God in that way, to pour my heart, to the priest, the little old priest who heard my confession, and in the setting of anonymity, because as a young person I was really afraid, kind of like, oh gosh, what if he could see my face, and if other people can see me here in confession, what is that going to mean? They're going to think things about me. And I encountered the Lord in such a powerful way in confession that it changed my life. It changed everything about the course that I decided to take as a young person. So for me, I know that confession is so sacred and it's so important, and even just the aspect of anonymity within confession is something that is an important thing. I was just at a youth retreat up in Fall River Mills, way north in our diocese, and a lot of the kids in line wanted to go behind a screen. They were there, the priest was in the room, and they were like, well, do we have an option of a screen? Which they did. But I think it just speaks to kind of, there's shame that comes with sin, and sometimes it's hard to face that. So being able to come in anonymously before the Lord and to reveal the parts of your life where you failed, it's a very big deal and just such a sacred moment. And I think part of it is after that you're able to look God face to face, right, as part of the healing that takes place. But it's such a beautiful thing to feel safe and able to reveal yourself in that vulnerable way to God through the person of the priest present, but really directly to the Lord in that way. So I think it's just, confession is such a beautiful thing, and so I think fundamental to the practice of being Catholic.
Yeah.
Than to hear that the state wants to try to come in and change and regulate aspects of it that are just so fundamental to what it really is to us as a practice of our faith and our worship. It's very concerning.
Yeah, and that, again, most people in society kind of look a little bewildered at the whole concept of the sacrament of confession. But for Catholics who regularly practice the sacrament, it's not a sense of bewilderment, it's really a sense of wonder at God's mercy and grace, and that the priest is really the instrument, of God's grace. But it's God the one who is really most active in that. And so, and why it's so important then that the priest is duty bound to protect the seal for the sake of the penitent. And and for us as priests, and I think I speak for most priests on this, is that there is a sense of wonder for us as confessors to share in that vulnerability with the penitent, our common humanity, but then also for us to witness how God, the things that God does. It's not so much what I say or what I do, but in obedience to what the sacrament is about. It's what God brings about in that sacrament and the mercy that He reveals in people's lives. And so so thank you for sharing that, Cecilia. And I just want to, again, for those of us who are familiar with the sacrament of confession, I think we understand what a threat this is, this state intrusion is, and that they just don't, there's no place for the state trying to regulate that. But it is, it's important for us at this moment when the state is attempting something that is very ill-advised and very ill-informed about, again, what the sacrament is about, that we as Catholics call our assembly members, write our assembly members, and tell them to vote no on SB 360. And also pray for that legislators will do the right thing, and that also that as Catholics that we might have a deeper appreciation for the mysteries of God's mercy revealed in His sacraments, especially the sacrament of confession. God bless.